Welcome to a Podful of Saints on Wednesday, the 3rd of May, 2023. Here we are. It's into its second week after last night's extravaganza at Melbourne Park. Right, you can go to bed now. We don't need you till next week. Hopefully we'll have you a week after as well. The extravaganza at Melbourne Park there. Chelmsford City 0, St Albans City 1. We're through to the semi-final of the playoff, and we're now going to mull over it with myself, David Tavener, a chuckling Jake Ellacott over there. Evening, Jake.
Hello, Dave. Hello, Lee. Hello, everyone. Oh, what a time to be a Saints fan.
And I suspect they're somewhat tired, Lee Wood, in another part of St Albans. Evening, Lee. You got a lot of sleep last night, I believe.
4 a.m. 4 a.m. This is what playoff wins do to a 44-year-old man who's far too excitable for where this team is going to be taking us. So, yes, good evening, boys. Good morning, whatever it is, as you were.
Right, Chelmsford. I mean, there's no point in playing the game, really. We went there unbeaten in the last 5 games there. The 6th game, we even gave them an extra 30 minutes to give them a chance to beat us, and that didn't work for them. The game, we'll look at team selection in a minute. The game, first half, it was patchy, wasn't it? It wasn't very exciting. Cagey, if you like, while the two sides sorted themselves out. It came alive after that in the second half, and it didn't look like there was going to be many goals. Neil on Monday, when we were talking on it, he said these playoff games can be full of goals. It never looked like it, did it? You go along with that, Jake?
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about first half versus second half. I think the change in excitement levels and quality was mostly down to us, second half, getting the ball on the ground and playing some good football. First half, I thought we really struggled, to be honest, to get the ball down at all. There was a lot of long balls forward, and every single one found the head of Chelmsford number 5, Dave Winfield, who we talked about last episode, was on the cusp of being fit, not being fit. We saw he had his face mask on, and he won just every single aerial challenge. Did he win everyone legally? Probably not. There's quite a few times he cleared through a few of our players.
Absolutely not.
but first half, I thought we struggled a little bit with Chelmsford, and we just lacked ideas a little bit. When we actually got the ball down in that first half, there was a few signs that something could happen here, and we established that second half. But yeah, I think that half time came at a really good time for us. We didn't concede. Dylan Berry, there's a few scrambles. We held on, and then second half, I thought we really took control of the game.
Yeah, we did. Chances were still at a premium, though, weren't they, Lee? And it could be said we didn't have a main goal scorer on the pitch in the first half. We did in the second, and he flashed. Shaun Jeffers, we're talking about, of course. He flashed one shot across the face of a goal, but there weren't a lot of other chances for strikers to feed off.
No, there wasn't, and I think that David's hand was probably forced a bit sooner than what he wanted to with the terms of introduction to Shaun, because obviously the injury to Tafari Moore. One thing I would say, though, about that is that we retained our calmness. And the one thing I would say about the performance last night, there was a real maturity to it. We defended our shape exceptionally well. But the thing is, as well, I think what is highlighted, Noble got it spot on with the substitutions. I think the lack of strength of depth in their squad in particular showed towards the latter end of the second half. And the fact that he was introducing not only fresh players on a regular basis, but quality players at that. And you could see the second half, we were just starting to turn the screw. They were defending deeper and deeper. We were getting a lot more ball. We were getting a lot more purchase. And it was a real mature performance. And yes, Chelmsford at home are always going to cause you problems. But, and it wasn't a great game for chances, Dave, as you alluded to, mate. But we had a lot of the ball, and I think we were really good value, and we made them look extremely ordinary at times. You always think that they're going to come back into it, and of course they are, because they're at home and they're a good side, But I think the way we conducted ourselves, everyone to a man, substitutions included, were absolutely superb, and they absolutely deserve every ounce of praise that they're going to get over the next coming days.
That first substitution, a minute before half-time, Tafari Moore went off with an injury. Bringing on Shaun Jeffers, he couldn't get two different sorts of players. He didn't go like for like. He didn't try and do it that way, Nobby. in many ways, is what we wanted. Getting Shaun on there is what we wanted, obviously. But it seems it did help the side as well. That's not putting Tafari down. Of course not. He's had a good season.
No.
But it gave us more menace up front. It gave them more to worry about as well. If you had to make that substitution, Jake, I don't want to put you on the spot, but would you have put Shaun on for Tafari?
I wouldn't have at that point, no. And it was a bold substitution, and it reminded me of Nobby's substitutions earlier in the season. Maybe not so less so in recent weeks, and that, I'm sure there's absolute reasons for that. But it was a brave decision, and it worked really well. And I think part of the reason it worked was also Callum Adebayo's performance. He stepped in for Tafari Moore, and he played absolutely brilliantly there. I think Tafari Moore, if he is injured for the next game or whatever, he'll be a huge miss. He's been brilliant this season. But Callum Adebayo was absolutely superb, and I think it shows the confidence Nobby had in Adebayo to fill that gap, and it worked absolutely brilliantly. And interestingly, I thought Callum's best attribute down that left, he actually got forward quite a bit well, but also his physicality down that left. He really controlled that area of the pitch, and it worked really, really well. But yeah, Jeffers coming on, he didn't create a lot of chances, he didn't have a lot of openings, but he gave Chelmsford a bit more something to think about, and it probably was a reason why second half they had to sit deeper and deeper every couple of minutes, because they had Jeffers, Mitch running in behind, Shea somewhat as well. It just worked really, really well, that substitution.
Yeah, bringing Joe Neal on midway through the second half, that was an interesting move, wasn't it? He came on for Shea Cooper, gone a little bit quiet. An interesting move, that one. It didn't disrupt the balance of the side, though.
I think that is the ethic that Noble's got now within the squad. He's not afraid to put on people a little bit out of position to get the balance that he needs. We keep harping on about, or I do, about balance, because the thing is, he's trying to fit good players into positions and trying to make the whole thing unite. And I think he's done that. Banton, who I thought was absolutely outstanding last night, he tracked back, but yet not only that, he still looked to go forward at every given opportunity. And that was a perfect outlet for us. I think that David highlighted the fact that Jake said there as well, Adebayo last night, absolute colossus, brave, and don't forget, he's been dropped a few times this season as well. And no one that's been dropped has kicked off or moaned or flapped their gums, anything like that. They've really stuck to the task. And that is probably the culture within the change room, that unity now that there is. I think Joe Neal coming on, Dave, to get to your point, mate, is the fact that there's still trust there. There's still trust in Joe. And okay, he may not be an instant goal threat, but he can be a threat in other ways. He's running, he can pull defenders. He's quite strong as well, isn't he? And I think strength is littered throughout that side. Jeffers, when he came on, he put himself around, he was strong. But what that enabled the club, what enabled that to do, Mitch then was the Mitch of old. He was feeding off and he was interacting in and around the box, and it almost freed up Mitch in a way. And then it just got sort of Jeffers to do what he does best, in the centre, throw himself around. And the interaction he had with everyone around him was absolutely fantastic. But one player that I've got to say, after the game at Farnborough, I went up to Ryan Blackman because they were all the players were sort of congregating around that little fan zone thing. And I went up to him and said, Ryan, listen, mate, I know you've not been here long and you probably think it's the rum talking, and it probably was. But I made a point of saying that he's one of the best midfielders that I've seen down the park in a long, long time. And I came away thinking, maybe that's a little bit of a reach. Maybe that's a bold statement. But after last night, mate, it was well and truly correct, because romantically we can look at the Duffields and the Mudds and the Lenny Pipers and the Ram Marwas of this world, and all to a player fantastic for our club. Ryan Blackman last night was absolutely on the money. He was everywhere, and he was getting clattered left, right and centre and getting nothing for it from the officials, absolutely none. But yet he was putting his body on the line. He was brave, he was tenacious. His attitude absolutely stinks of class, absolutely throughout that. And I think that then relays onto the players around him. And when you look at the likes of Joe Neal, maybe not as blessed quality and skill-wise as those around him, But when you get that attitude and that desire to succeed, that is a recipe for absolute success.
Earlier on, Jake, you mentioned the Chelmsford skipper, Dave Winfield, and his physical presence at the back. I mean, twice early on, he really shoved himself into Mitchell Rice, which always let him know I'm in charge. And Mitch complained to the referee, got nowhere with it. He had the final say, of course, Mitch did. But also, Winfield was one of their main threats going forward. They looked for the long ball, the corners, set pieces, for him to head it in. I thought they lacked invention up front. They had a few other chances, but mostly it was to the head of him. You look at their goal scorers. Leading goal scorer is Simeon Jackson. You may remember he got a great goal against us last year. He's on 13, and Tom Blackwell's on 10. He had a disallowed goal last night for offside. But they didn't really create a lot of chances. They were at home. Maybe the onus is on them to press. I don't know. In a one-off game, maybe it's not. And we were very comfortable in dealing with it. And a couple of times they did get through. Dylan Berry was in good form.
Yeah, I think that their real threats did come from those crosses into the area and the set pieces, didn't they? There was a few moments, scary moments. But yeah, they didn't have that threat that, maybe we expected. But it worked well for us. But I think, we have to compliment the whole defence. Every single defender I thought that, featured last night played their part really, really brilliantly. And to get a clean sheet in the playoffs, not many moons ago, we were talking about this defence not being able to keep a clean sheet for love nor money. And now suddenly they've kept a clean sheet in a playoff quarter final. And that's not bad going. And it shows the brilliant work that the players and the management team have put in to get it. And I think another player that deserves a mention, they all do, but Aidan Francis Clarke. I mean, he didn't play. I mean, he hadn't played senior football, had he, till he joined us on loan, 2.5, 3 months ago? And goodness me, he just looks like an absolute machine. And what a player. Absolutely superb at the back. And he's suddenly become almost an undroppable player, hasn't he? And it's absolutely brilliant to see these youngsters. And we have to remember, this team is full of a lot of youngsters. And they are all doing a brilliantly job.
Don't they wear it though well, Jake? You know what I mean? You spoke there, mate. That ball from the left-hand side early across the face of our goal, that's all they had to show in the second half. And okay, yes, it was telling and it was quite dangerous, but they weren't getting any purchase in the middle because our shape was so good and our discipline was absolutely spot on. That's all they had. And I say it was dangerous. No one was getting on the end of it, mate. So it may have looked a bit worse from where we were standing. You talk about the discipline as well. In the second half of the extra time, it was really odd because obviously we were facing our defence and we were and it was quite refreshing to sort of see how they were really on it. They were organised, they were verbal, they were really, really disciplined. Cal, Dylan in the goal was absolutely, he was orchestrating everything in front of him. Very, very brave. And everyone was doing their job defensively. It was a real insight, wasn't it, mate, to sort of see just how well drilled they are. And they've played now together over the course of a few months or years in some cases with Joy and Callum. So, you're going to get that collaboration and that partnership. And, add Francis in there as well. And it's just an absolute delight to watch that level that we've not really been used to. And they have copped some abuse from us. And at times it's probably been warranted. But last night, majestic, boys. Absolutely majestic. Well done. Well done.
Standing behind that goal towards the end of extra time, Jake, Chelmsford put us under a bit of pressure there. Were you ever concerned that they might get through? Because as we said before, clear chances weren't there.
More because of my own general worry. The only real moment was they had a good 5-minute spell, didn't they? They had several set pieces, and Dylan Berry made what seemed like from behind the goal an absolutely amazing save, high to his left, when Winfield got a free header. But apart from that, I say there wasn't a lot of chances. The offside goal, the assistant's flag was up very quickly, so I have no doubt that was offside, and they didn't seem to complain about it. And I also wanted to mention that Glenn McConnell made a really important, sort of block/tackle in the area as well, which almost after that, I think, the Berry save and then that Glenn block, I think Chelmsford's heads went back down again. I think they thought, oh no, it's not going to be our evening, is it? And yeah, so but But then there was always going to be that spell, wasn't there? You know, we didn't get a second. There was always going to be a bit of a danger, and they had to throw everything at it, and they tried to, but they couldn't get through.
We didn't get a second. Glenn McConnell had a goal disallowed for offside. The flag was up early again, like you said, for their one. So let's talk about the one goal we did get. It was sufficient.
Hey.
No point wasting a second one. Excellent work. Mitchell Reese again, down the left, beat his man, knocks it near post, 10, 12 yards out. Shaun Jeffers. What can you say?
Brilliant. It was the combination that we were talking about last podcast. Suddenly, who knew? But also, I think we have to take back another step. Blackman in the middle, the way he battled, he pressed the midfielder, won it, battled it literally on the ground, and then got it out.
Jumper, wasn't it? It was, he sat on it for about 10 seconds.
Brilliant play, and fair play to Mitch as well, because for the 15, 20 minutes before that, he looked like he was really struggling. He was getting cramp. He was keeled over almost at every opportunity. The ball went out of play, and then suddenly he had just burst of energy and pinpoint ball in, and my word, what a finish from Shaun Jeffers. What a finish. Just absolute. And the scenes behind the goal, the pandemonium, just what a moment. I've been thinking about it all day. Just superb.
The pandemonium at the end, David Noble mentioned in his post-match about supporters going on the pitch. He doesn't want them doing it because he wants the players to go up there, up to the perimeter fence and hug them all there and whatnot. And of course, you can't do that if you're flooded by supporters on the pitch. Also, a couple of hours went down there and goaded the Chelmsford supporters, which is totally out of order. No need for that whatsoever. I'd imagine, though, the atmosphere where you lot were was pretty electric. It's a bit more sedate on the side of the pitch.
I dare say it would be if you're sort of standing with the likes of Tim. I mean, the first half, there was definitely a sort of a nervousness around, wasn't it, Jake? You know, it was just that, the anticipation of the big game. I think you alluded to the younger element going on the pitch. And look, I was guilty of it myself at home to Farnborough, but I think there was a different vibe to the game there. I think doing it in someone else's house is completely different, and you won't, you cannot condone the fact they're going up to the opposition fans goading, because it wasn't that long ago when we were getting pelted with bottles and stones and all sorts away to Boreham Wood. Lovely people that they are. Look, the younger, louder element, they're not everyone's cup of tea, but they are our future, and they are. We need to sort of nurture these boys to know what is right and what is acceptable, and they'll get that. They're bright lads, despite what some may think. They'll learn that themselves, but they are going to be part of the bigger picture, and we need to look after these boys because they are the future, and they're going to form a massive, massive part of our legacy going forward. And if they play the cards right, and this could be first of many, many games that are just as important for us. And we're going to need those boys on our side. So yeah, look, do it right, be intelligent, be loud, be proud, and onwards and upwards, please.
Yeah, of course, be intelligent, stay where you are, because you're damaging the club, actually, what you're doing with that. And Flair, as much as I like Flair, they're not allowed at football grounds. They look terrific, but you can't take them. They shouldn't be there. And the club can get done for it. So you're trying to show your support, but there are other ways of doing it. And that said, it was great to see so many supporters there, wasn't it?
I mean, we had a good, at least 600 there, would you say? We had a really good proportion of that crowd last night, if not more. How many would you say, Dave?
Oh, over 1,000. Well, I would have thought we had close on half. Down the side, you saw these people start clapping. You thought, I didn't know you were a St Albans supporter.
They are now.
and looking at the photos, it's so many City supporters in different parts of the ground you wouldn't expect. And I wouldn't think we were far off 50% of that crowd.
Oh, mate, easily. And there were a couple of fans who didn't even make the entire game. But yeah, but isn't it fascinating to see that it's fans young and old? Malcolm McMillan was there, our outgoing president. Davy Mack was there, Neil Blackerby, Hatboy, all these people who, for whatever reason, and they've got their own choices not to attend home games, they were there. It was young and old, Tabs, we harp about on this every single time, mate, and people are pretty bored of it, but we're going to say it because it's important. It's about that unity. You know, every single fan, no matter how long you've been going to watch them, if you are a fan of City, then you are more than welcome to join the journey because that's what it's all about.
Right, the next journey, we're back down to Kent. We haven't been there for almost a fortnight. Prince's Park, Prince's Park, Dartford. Now, I think we can guess what the lineup's going to be, but we might be wrong. Shaun Jeffers is going to be a topic of discussion again. He got a goal last night, became our first substitute to score in 3 games running. Never happened before in our history. He's now our top scorer in National League South. He's on 64, 2 more than Lee Clarke. And going to Dartford, played them 5 times. He scored in 4 of them. He scored in all of his 3 games for us at Prince's Park. He starts, doesn't he?
Does he? I think we've been saying that for the last month and a half, Taz. You know, when you said he couldn't possibly be dropped now.
No.
You know, McConnell couldn't possibly be dropped now. The only way, well, look, he's made an excellent case for himself. Because not only did he score an amazing goal last night, his contribution to the stats, the data that is so, you know, revered, you know, it was exceptional. He ran his absolute legs off. Maybe.
But also, Lee, Dartford won't have forgotten his goal last week, which was sensational. So no matter how tight they get to him, he can do something special.
Tavs, you know, Shaun Jeffers lives rent-free in their defender's head. Make no mistake. No mistake. But I mean, Jake, listen to me. We spoke about this 1,000 times. I think the only way Jeffers starts, if Nobby's true to form, the only way Jeffers starts if his injuries force his arm.
Interesting. I mean, I think I wouldn't be shocked if we see Shaun and Mitch start together on Sunday now after the second half. Yeah. But I say there is injury thoughts now. You know, Mitch had to go off. I'm sure he's fine, but he's struggling a little bit. Tafari Moore, decision there. Midfield, we probably haven't mentioned him, but Ben Smith was absolutely superb in the middle. You know, Kyan Wiltshire probably not available. There's big decisions there, but I think you've seen the impact that Shaun's had in recent weeks, and we talked about it last episode with Neil. You know, this is knockout football. You need a goal scorer out there. And, you know, Shaun, he didn't take the chance late on in the second half where it was a hard chance, but he was there where you wanted it. And few Chelmsford fans seen their comments online afterwards. They said one of the big differences between 2 sides is they had a goal scorer out there. Yeah. Chelmsford didn't. And that's all it comes down to, isn't it?
Well, you look at Dartford, their top goal scorers, Alex Wall, been around a bit, hasn't he? He's got a dozen goals. Behind him, you got Pierre Foncu, I probably said it wrong, and Samir Carruthers, both on 10. Both of them scored against us the other week. So they've not got an out-and-out goal scorer that we have, but they can spread it around a bit more. But we've got 3 players close to the tallies they've got. So we haven't got someone in our mind. You say about Jeffers being in their mind, Lee. We haven't got that for them to concentrate on one figure. We just play our normal game and treat them as it is. Ben Smith, I'm glad you mentioned him. Yes, Nobby said in his interview, it's about learning about these players. Well, he's learned a lot about some of them the last couple of games, hasn't he? Ben Smith being one of them.
Absolutely superb, wasn't he, yesterday? I think helps a lot that you've got Ryan Blackman alongside you in midfield. I think Ryan did a lot of the hard yards last night, but he allowed that space to open up for Ben. And I thought Smith, you know, he's how old is he? 18 years old, and to do that in a massive game like that, absolutely amazing. And at times, you know, he's so good on the ball, you almost forget he's there. He was just so comfortable and calm, and he was just absolutely brilliant, wasn't he? And yeah, it's great to see. And we had a tweet asking about how's he compared to other young players that have come through our ranks and we've given the shirt to. And I think he's, you know, at the moment, hopefully, touch wood, everything goes well. I think he's got to be up there, isn't he, in terms of quality and skill and what he's managed to achieve so far. He might not have had a lot of minutes for us, but when he has featured, I think he's not let us down at all, has he? He's been absolutely brilliant.
He turned 19 back in March, and Glenn McConnell turned 19 last week as well. They're still such a young side. All right, we're not going to have McConnell next season, but that's the thing. I didn't work out what the average age was last night, but it's still going to be pretty young. Jeffers is one of the older ones. Adebayo is one of the older ones. Mitch as well. They're all round about the 30 mark. Dobby's got a nice mix there, and you worry about would last night take too much out of the players with the extra time, but we've got the extra day with the game being on the Sunday.
Yeah.
That worked in our favour a bit more. You would have thought. Dartford are going to be fresh. They made, I think it was 9 changes for their draw at Hampton last week for their game when they beat us the previous week. So they're looking after their players. They're going to be fresh.
We know from City previously, it doesn't always help to have those big breaks. We've talked about that being a positive for Saints in previous seasons, and it all goes wrong. So, that's nothing to worry about, is it? We saw how we competed with them last game down there. We should have beat them, let's be honest. The chances we had, their 2 goals, fairly scruffy. And we've got a blueprint there. And if you had Shaun Jeffers into that mix, if you had Shaun Jeffers in that first half, maybe you do win that game down at Dartford. And they're not in spectacular form. I know they beat us, but away from that, they've not been amazing. It's 50-50 on Sunday, isn't it? But we've got to go there confident, and you can't measure how much winning last night will have done for the lads, how much of a factor it will be. We go there in amazing mood, amazing attitude. We saw the celebrations for the players at the end, even though they were curtailed because the fans ran on the pitch. But you saw how much it meant, and Lee, we've talked to him so many times today. Ryan Blackman leading the celebrations there, absolutely superb.
I've got a little bit like a man crush, fellas. I've got to say, just from a footballing, don't get alarmed, Ryan. I say, just from a footballing aspect, Tavs, you've been around the world, mate, a few times, and you are what I would call a seasoned supporter.
An old git, yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah, that's one. There's nothing to fear from Dartford, and yes, they won against us a few weeks ago, but I would hope that Nobby would have learned something from that defeat. We started off quite slow. We gave the ball away in a very dangerous position. They scored after 2 minutes, or whatever it was. But apart from that first half, it was all us. We took our chances. If we would have taken our chances, the scoreline would have been different. But it's insignificant now because we are on the ascendancy. We've had the performance. And I genuinely believe that this is just the start. If we play like we did against Chelmsford at Dartford are going to be in for a rude awakening. And there's nothing there that suggests. I said this on the pod a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Sorry. Ipswich were the only side I thought, they're a good side. They're head and shoulders above us. But even we gave them a good game. Dartford, there's nothing to fear, and trust me, we will travel in numbers. If you think that Chelmsford was good, mate, you wait until Sunday because it's going to be on another level.
I agree with you about the Dartford game. We should have wrapped it up in that first half down there. We played really well. Did we have a goal scorer on the pitch in the first half?
David.
Oh, sorry. But you got to give credit to Alan Dowson. He changed things in that Dartford team at half time against us. So they had learnt a lot in that opening 45, and they will have stored that up ready for this Sunday's game, which is going to make it interesting. Jake, you mentioned Dartford's form. They haven't won 2 successive league games, I think, since the start of January. But in the last 10 games, they've won all games alternately. I don't wish to worry you, but they drew their last game.
But that run has been win loss. They didn't really draw many, so doesn't mean. Yeah. But I totally get what you mean about Dowson, what he learned. But I think Lee's right. I think Nobby and the lads will have learned a lot from that second half at Dartford. I think they'll have gained a lot of knowledge of how Dartford will probably line up against us this game, and they can really use that. It's almost ironically, out of all the games to lose, it wasn't a bad one to lose because we will have learned a lot from that game. It didn't turn in our favour. I think it hurt a lot for the players at the end, and it's just a bit more motivation they can use, a bit more tactical knowledge. And as you said, with that extra day, I'm sure Nobby and the players will get, as they've got plenty of time to prepare themselves, however they need to for Sunday.
I'm not finished doing my stats now.
No.
Right, we've only won one of the last 8 meetings, but that means nothing. This is a one-off game. It's funny. The last 7 meetings, we've scored 1 goal in each of them. I get a feeling we might need more than one Sunday. I think this could be more of an open game than Chelmsford. They've been a tighter side all season. I think I just see Dartford being more an open, expansive game, and I think it'd be far more entertaining than what we had last night. Might not be as gripping, because last night was certainly tense
Well,
during
I
extra
mean,
time.
it'll be interesting, but the pressure's going to be on Dartford.
Mm.
They'll have a big home crowd there on Sunday. The pressure will be on them. They've not played, for however long now by then. The pressure is going to be on them. We travel there optimistic, but we travel there, the Saints fans, full of joy and full of fun after Tuesday night, and we go there
And full of
looking to have a good time.
Carlsberg as well,
Yeah,
by the state
yeah,
of some of
well,
them when we got onto the train.
yeah, certain ones, a lot of Carlsberg. And I think we're all going there. We're just enjoying the experience, aren't we? We're really soaking it in. I think we should do that in the coming days. But why worry? We go out there, 11 versus 11, football at the end of the day. It's pretty simple.
Why worry? Goodness me, I don't like this new Jacob at Ellacott. It's quite scary. Tabs, we had a question, mate. Nigel Culkin wants to know: isn't it good that we get to go from one fantastic non-league ground to another one on Sunday? They're just a smattering around the non-league spectrum, mate.
Well, we haven't talked about Melbourne Park. I'm staggered to think that passes the National League criteria. You've got to feel sorry for Chelmsford. They needed a ground. New Bristol Street
Why?
got closed down, which had a great big stand, was a decent ground. But they got this ground now, and it's awful. It's a sports stadium, an athletic stadium with a football pitch in the middle, and the bits of the ground closed off with these barrier type things. Which, if you get some evil intended people down there, they just knock those flying, and you're going to have problems down there. I really can't see how that can be a National League standard ground. I hope they get a new ground soon, because they got a big catchment area there. Their gates have been hit this season, we know, because there's some disputes with their supporters. So their average crowd is 800 odd, whereas it should be a lot more, really. And that ground, unless all right, you get a great view from up in the stand, because it's clear, but you're so far from the pitch. The stand on the other side seems a bit closer, but it's lower down, and you've got people standing in front of you. It's not got a lot going for it as a football ground, has it?
And good luck to them, because they're delightful fans. Some of them, aren't they, Jake? On the way home, they they didn't take it well at all, did they? But you know what? That's what happens.
Yeah, it wasn't the
Yes.
most enjoyable support experience, was it?
Right.
So a little bit cramped at times behind the goal. But I think, again, fair play to our fans for enjoying it like they did, making a really good atmosphere, especially second half under that cover. Really good support, and did what they could from the ground. It was really good.
Well, it's disappointing with Dartford at the moment, anyway, only allowing us 700 tickets, which is ridiculous. We will sell those comfortably, one would imagine. I would have thought it should be a 50-50 split, because it's a one-off game. It's like a cup tie. But there we go. If we've only got 700, we still make a decent amount of noise, no doubt.
The rest of that ground could be full of Dartford fans, and we were still out singing. So it's not a problem, Tabs, to be honest with you. But I think the one thing, take last night into equation, and irrespective of the result on Sunday, I think it's very important to understand that there's a legacy building for this club now. We've spoken about the fans, and that's one element to it. But I think now it's not only the type of football that we want to see, but the players we need to deliver that. And you spoke there that McConnell and Cooper probably won't be here this time next year. But, if that is the case, it's an opportunity for others. And David Noble, he wasn't the owner's first choice, but he is the last choice, and he's the best choice to take this club forward. And he's now got a blueprint to take this club to the next echelon of non-league game, and maybe, who knows, even higher. But we have to maintain that level now. The players who play the football in the way we play it and the style that we want to see it. So irrespective of what happens on Sunday, I think the bar has been set relatively high, and the owners and David Noble and all the backroom staff, they have to adhere to that. And they've got now, if they want to see the scenes behind the goals And that Farnborough game as well, which really should have opened their eyes to the potential of this great, great club. This is now the start of really putting us back on the map.
You got one thing wrong there, Lee. You said about Nobby being the best man for a job or whatever, which is ridiculous because us three are the best managers Northern City have never had. And so, looking at the injuries, Ben Smith stays in for Carr and Wiltshire, one presumes. Can't see any change there. What happens if Tafari Moore doesn't make it? What does Nobby go with?
You'd imagine it's going to be a similar version of what ended the game, in terms of maybe Zane tracking back a bit more. I think what that does, that Zane's got the legs to defend and pick up. Therefore, that then frees up Mitch to get out and do the damage out wide. But don't forget, Mitch's asset is the assists and the quality of, all of that. I think he's going to leave McConnell to come on and sort of make that impact there. I think I said this last night to Jake. I said I think Jeffers should start, but I don't think he will. But I think this time is now the time when you think, surely, out of all of the games that we've been harping on about this is the one. This is the one where he starts. And you've got, if you imagine, you've got Vice running off and you've got Blackman pulling all of the strings. You've got Che Cooper doing what he does, just nipping in elusively. It's a recipe for success if it's right. But obviously, it's a playoff game. It's a one-off game. You've told about it, Tabs. Neil spoke about it. I don't think it's going to be a 5-4. It's going to be very, 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 very tetchy and very, very nervy. However, play anywhere near like we did on Tuesday night, and it could be good.
I saw stats somewhere about since they brought in the extra round of eliminator with increasing the number of clubs in the playoffs, only one side from down at our end of a draw, if you like, has made it all the way through to win the playoffs. But it's like that in the Southern League, wasn't it? We weren't at the top of the table as such. We were lower end of the playoffs, and we came through that with flying colours. Wow. So that's just the statistics waiting to be smashed again, isn't it?
Yeah, we talked about it last episode, didn't we? And I think that team that did it in this division is actually Braintree when they got through all the way to the National League going on for 5 years ago. So it can be done. But this stage of the season, it doesn't matter where you finish, does it? Whatever happens, we'll see. Interestingly, all the divisions that played last night, all the away sides won in the eliminators. So that's an interesting statistic. See what happens tonight with the other game. But yeah, it's all teed up, isn't it, for Sunday for whatever happens.
Bottle, Jacob. It's all about bottle, son.
Like Lee says, whatever happens, just for a really good day for Northern City Football Club, whatever happens.
A 12:30 kickoff, so don't stroll into Dartford at 3 o'clock and wonder where everybody is.
Out of all the times to kick off.
Well, the option last time get there on Saturday and just stay up all night and just sort of go there nice and early on Sunday morning.
We've had one 12:30 away kickoff this season already, and again it was down in Kent, away to Dover, and that was one of our best performances of the season. Not reflected in the score, but a thoroughly enjoyable City performance that day.
Repeat of that performance, please.
Yes, with some goals would help.
Yeah.
Good. Right, are we done and dusted?
Do we have to
any points to bring up? You had a point about Greg Deacon before we started, I think. Jake, what's Greg got to say?
Yeah, Greg Deacon, former City player who featured in the rather chaotic Bedford playoff win from, what was it, 2002-3? Was it around then? I think.
Oh my days.
He was sort of he's just asking, could this playoff run end up being better than that run? And he said that game was the most he'd ever run in a game. So, it's good to hear from Greg, and hopefully we can repeat that run because it was a hell of a journey, wasn't it?
That was chaos, absolutely personified. But the thing is, now we've got a team full of, professionals and their athletes. The team we had for that game, it was, journeyman, ex-league players, a couple of young stars like Greg himself. So, and it was a real sort of mishmash, but the scenes I mean, we had no right winning that game from the position we were in. But alas, it shows character. You know, it doesn't matter. As soon as you put this shirt on, you know, it just does revigorate the entire thing. So thank you for getting in touch, Greg. But Greg wasn't the only one this week. We did a very, very quick pod latter end of last week, and it got some amazing views. Thank you so much. And our inbox and our DMs have been absolutely inundated. Thank you so much for everyone that's approached us and spoke to us and messaged us and emailed us and criticised me and criticised Tabs. No one criticised Jake because he's the golden boy. But apart from that, thank you so much, everybody. It really does mean a lot because it's just three blokes waffling in their kitchens. But it does seem to resonate on so many levels, even with David and his friends.
That Bedford game, of course, Greg's going to mention it because he got the first goal. He put us 1-0 up. Then we went 3-1 down, and you said we had no way to win it from it. No right to win it from there, Lee. But we were on top. We were still the better side at 3-1 down. Eventually, we came good. Adam Parker got a goal. Lee Clarke got a penalty. Miguel de Souza, and then that magnificent goal from Steve Watts won it. That wonderful finish right at the end. These are bigger games than that. Sorry, Greg, because of where we are. It's a next level up to one league outside, one division outside the Football League. But whatever happens, it certainly won't beat the excitement of that Bedford day. That was terrific.
It's folklore, isn't it? Folklore.
The gate was 1,087, which is chicken feed nowadays for us, isn't it?
I think some very blurry highlights are still on YouTube of that game as well. If you have a search around for any more recent fans, it's certainly well worth it for the quality of the video and the quality of that final goal. Absolutely brilliant. Do we have to do predictions for this Dartford game?
Oh,
why not? You're all wrong the other day, of course. Neil went for a 3-3 draw. I mean, we're not getting him back on, obviously.
Come on, Jacob. Come on.
Because it worked the other day, I'm going to go 3-1 Saints.
Whee! I want to go 2-1 Saints.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be that. Well, there we go. Why not?
Deja vu. Same results you went for the other night. I'll do Neil's 3-3 draw, then and we win on penalties.
Oh,
sweet. Good. Right.
On
that note.
Send us a tweet at Podful of Saints. Send us an email as well. And we will speak to you again next week at some point after whatever happens to dissect the game. And we look forward to seeing you very soon. Thank you very much, everyone.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.